Now, Eric, we framed the question, and I'm going to ask it again so we can get right into it. Can Jameson Williams become the next big NFL superstar?
I believe he can, but it's not going to be easy. I don't think, at least. I think he has already kind of behind, not because of just the injury, but his class of receivers around him have been fantastic. Garrett Wilson has been amazing. Drake London looks really good. Chris Olave showed a lot of upside. George Pickens in Pittsburgh. I believe I might even be forgetting a couple more. We had Sky Moore, Christian Watson. Like, there were a lot of really good receivers. So normally for young players, what's the curse that they're given? They're compared to their draft classmates. That's just how it is, unfortunately. So I think that there's skill set. I believe that there's a foundation set up for J-Mo to be productive. If we see that superstar breakout, I'm not sure it's going to be as soon as this season, but I do believe he has a chance. I think there's enough help around him. I think we're going to see a better connection between him and Jared Goff, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But I do think the connection and I think the resources and the ability is there for him to be that superstar. Definitely.
I am interested in what the people think too, so make sure you're dropping comments down below and make sure you're liking and sharing this video so other people can tell us if J-Mo's going to be the next big star.
Yep.
But I also agree with you that he can be. Mm-hmm. He was the best wide receiver coming out last year.
Yes.
Yes, Wilson went in front of him. Yes, Olave went in front of him. But he was also forgotten about because of the ACL injury in the national championship, right? Maybe not forgotten about. Maybe that's too strong of a word. I understand, okay? But Wilson, really good. Olave, really good. Don't have the game-changing speed that he has. Now listen, I told you this. I shared this with you last week, right? I went back and watched all of the Detroit Lions inside the dens from the behind the scenes of the draft room.
Yeah.
And I just got sucked in because I was like mesmerized, right? Mm-hmm. It changed my perspective a little bit on J-Mo because of how interested Brad Holmes was to get him.
Yes.
Like, that was the guy that he was going to pick. And he moved up to make sure that nobody could pick him in front of him. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, okay. They had a 32nd pick. J-Mo was most likely not going to stay on the board until 32. Mm-hmm. Specifically when you know and remember quite fondly the reaction of that Packers fan when we drafted Jameson Williams. Do you remember that?
I do. I definitely do. That was nuts.
And listen, it's always good to see Packers fans in misery. So, like, that's why we're going to keep shouting this out.
Yes, indeed.
His speed and his ability to run routes and catch the ball and break games wide open at Alabama is why Brad Holmes drafted him at 12 and traded up with Minnesota to get him at 12. He hasn't lost that. Now, can he adapt to the NFL game and become that superstar that we saw? I feel like we saw flashes last season.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
Like, every time the ball was in his hands, it was electrifying. From his one catch that was a 41-yard touchdown and his one run that was a 40-yard reverse that you saw in person.
But you could have had a touchdown on that play.
Could have. It was electrifying. And in today's day and age, I feel like electrifying is what makes you the superstar, not necessarily just pure talent. In the day of social media and highlight reels and TikToks and all of that, right? And because of how electrifying he is, I think that there's going to be a lot of reason to believe the next big thing's wearing number 9 in Detroit. And I'm not talking about a former Matthew Stafford jersey. I'm talking about Jameson Williams. Go ahead.
I don't think it. I want people to be fair. Like, yes, there are some games where you're going to want to see him look like that number 1 guy. To me, I don't think it's going to be immediate. Like, we just talked about what they need to do to be great, and it's not get cute. It's not relying on making him look like a number 1. I think that's getting cute. relying on Amon-Ra, playing ground and pound football, relying on your offensive line to set the tone, I think that's going to be it. But you just spoke to it. Having skill sets that you can't teach, like that game-breaking speed that he has, that's what separates him from his entire class. Like, there's a lot of talented guys. Also forgot Dotson from the Commanders. Also a very good receiver in that group. But yeah, he has things that you can't teach. And as long as we see a little bit of that progression as he gets better, hopefully throughout the season, I think that opportunity is going to be there. I think we're going to see it maybe not this season, but next. But I do think at some point he will morph into that number one guy.
Yeah, well, and I think proof of that is the fact that, like we talked about last night on the live, DJ Chark most likely was not offered anything to stay with the Lions, considering what he signed with the Panthers with. J-Mo he played 6 games for the Lions in 2022. He only had 9 targets in those 6 games. He only caught 1 of those 9 targets, but it was for a 41-yard touchdown, which is like, welcome to the big show, kid. Which means that, like, overall, and I'm not going to put any stock into PFF grades for Jameson Williams because it's really hard to grade an entire year on 6 games, right?
Agreed.
63.4 overall, 57.5 passing because he did have 2 drops. 70 for rushing. But I still think we're only scratching the surface of what this kid is going to be. Completely scratching the surface. But in order to really understand fully what he is, how would you navigate or explain, analyze the strengths and weaknesses that he brings to the Detroit Lions?
It's pretty simple. I mean, we just kind of spoke to it. Obviously, we didn't get to see a lot of it last season. Really, even outside of the numbers you just gave, he didn't spend a whole lot of time on the field, so he couldn't get a real rhythm to show off the skill set that he has. Like, he would play one play in a possession, and then that was it. Like, they would sit him for the next 2, and then we wouldn't see him again. But a lot of his skill set is on high display. We saw it in college. It wasn't just the game-breaking deep threat speed. Like, he was able to run crisp routes. He was not scared of contact. He was able to outrun a lot of his coverages as well. Pretty good with his hands. Not really the biggest receiver, which kind of worries me a little bit. We talked about that on the live, where this receiving core doesn't have a whole lot of like strength and beef to it. So because of that, we saw some injuries. We saw a lot of things kind of get changed in terms of their game preparation with their receivers. So to me, he's got to use those uncoachable traits that he has to his advantage and use that with separation, use that in terms of being able to run after the catch. I think they'll be able to put him in positions like that where he's, running over the middle and, able to outrun the defense around him. So he's shown the ability to do that, even in the play against the Packers where they called that touchdown back, which broke so many people's heart on the internet.
So many hearts.
But
many hearts.
Yeah, that upside is there. I think the unteachable skills that he has are going to make him very, very special in this league.
And I think you hit on it, and that's kind of where I think too, right? His biggest strength is his ability to create plays. It's not the touchdown that we saw for a 41-yard bomb in his first catch. Where we're going to see his biggest impact is when he takes a 5-yard slant route 30 yards.
Yeah.
And is weaving in and out and running away from people.
Yep.
Those are strengths. Yep. His ability to make plays. According to his draft, I went back and obviously looked at his draft profile, right? But he has smooth route takeoff with instant gas is what the NFL scouting combine said.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
Long-lived with expansive catch radius, plays with sudden hands to stab and secure high throws, good yards after catch stack when catching on the move. Like that's also a skill that's hard to teach. It's great to catch the ball, but how can you transfer that into yards after the catch, right? Which he's really, really good at. With strengths come weaknesses.
Yes.
So what do you think some of those weaknesses are that he could work on?
Some of the weaknesses that he can work on are a lot of what we talked about in the live. To me, I think this is probably the biggest one for now. I'm not going to hone in on his physicality. I want to see the maturity step up. I want to see his mental growth kind of take a forefront, because he's a young player. And a lot of what we see from him, like we saw the excitement when he scored his touchdown. We saw him hand the football off to his dad, and we saw awesome. That. And I feel like was very cool, super cool moment. So cool to see him so in the moment and excited about what he was doing. And I feel like the physical traits are going to take a minute. Like I said, I want to see him get a little stronger. I want to see him be able to, run a little bit more of intermediate routes. I want to see him be able to catch with his hands and not his chest. But to me, I'm going to give him some time for that. The things I want to see immediately is the mental. That's got to be a big change right now. I don't want to see no more Lamar clamoring online. Like, I don't want to see it from you, J-Mo. I don't want to see it from him. Let me do that. It's the fans. Yes, let me take care of that. I'm the spokesman for that. Yeah. J-Mo needs to focus on what he needs to work on. Put your head down. Work with Amon-Ra. Work with Jared Goff. That's what I want to see right now from him.
I have a new title for you for your Twitter bio.
Oh, yeah?
The devil on Brad Holmes' shoulder.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Take
it free of charge.
I really might. Let me get up there. That's cool. I'll take that.
You literally took the words right out of my mouth as far as weakness goes, because we've talked about some antics. And again, I want to be very clear. Like, I expect it from a rookie. I'm okay with it, right? Again, trying to reprocess everything I've thought about Jameson Williams over the last year since he was drafted, which I was not thrilled with. Even though I'm still glad that he's a Lion. I know that's kind of double speak, but at the same time, I don't like spending the capital to draft a wide receiver. But now I trust Brad Holmes more than I dislike that decision. Right. So I'm okay with that,
fair.
Right?
Yep, that's fair.
I get why he was animated. He had been out of football for a year with this injury. He had just gotten back to play and wasn't getting the run that he wanted to get.
Right.
So there is frustration. I can understand that. Yeah. But when life hands you frustrations, you are defined by how you handle those frustrations.
Absolutely.
And so in the sense that you are talking with the mental game, yeah, I don't want to see him commenting on photos of Lamar in a Lions uniform. Yeah. Because he has a quarterback that he needs to work the chemistry out with. And barring some major move, which has a less than 1% chance of happening, Jared Goff is going to be throwing footballs to Jameson Williams for the next 2 years. Yep. And if you want to be the rising star, then Jared Goff needs to be your best friend. So he can get there. And you said it last night on live, Goff's a pro.
Yes.
I'm sure, and for all the stuff that we have given him in the past, you cannot really question his camaraderie.
Right.
And I think that the guys in the locker room do like Jared Goff.
I agree.
So it would make sense for J-Mo to be sitting by Goff at every step of the camps, train, everything. I mean, when I first stepped foot on my college campus, you know who the first person I hung out with was?
Your wide receiver?
The freshman wide receiver that came in. Right? We went and we hung out. We were just, because you got to build, as we talked about on the live last night, it's about building trust. If I'm throwing you the ball, I need to know that you're going to be there. Yep. You need to know that when you beat your guy, I'm putting the ball on you. Right? And it's the same. I mean, football is still football. Yeah, they play it at a much higher level, but the game is still basically the same.
Right.
So what does 2023 look like for Jameson Williams then? That's the question I think everybody wants to know. So, and I want your answers too. So make sure you're throwing them in the comments for us. Make a prediction for 2023. What is Jameson Williams 2023 look like?
I got numbers. I tweeted this the other day.
You actually wrote numbers down.
Yeah. Somebody put up a picture of is the 3 picture with Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and DJ Shark during camp, but they got their arms folded.
Yeah.
It's a predicted stat line for both of them. So I'll give you J-Mo's. J-Mo, I think, will finish. Again, I don't believe we're going to see him look like the number 1 consistently through the season. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I think we're going to see still a very productive year from him. I think we'll see 70 catches. I think that's a reasonable number for him. I think 850 yards. I think 850.
More than Shark this year.
Yep, more than Shark. They're going to rely on him a lot. I think he's going to be in every series. Like, I don't think they're going to be sitting him and trying to, okay, we'll get you these gadget. No. They're going to play him this year. 8 touchdowns. I think he's going to be a game breaker. I think he's going to score more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, honestly. I just think he's going to be that game breaker. I feel like Amon-Ra is your chain mover. He's the playmaker, and he's going to help create opportunities for other people. So we're going to see hopefully some double teams, some triple teams to open up the middle for the tight ends and Amon-Ra and whoever they get else to help them. So, but I think those are realistic numbers that we can see from J-Mo this season.
I'm going to one-up you.
Okay, talk to me.
I think he does have a breakout season this year.
Okay, define breakout season. Let me hear this.
I like the 70 catches.
Okay.
That's 70 to 80 catches. I think he gets 1,000.
Really? Okay. All right.
And at least 2 of his touchdowns will be 60-plus yards.
Yeah. That's a good call.
But I think that we start to see the rough edges of the diamond kind of sanded away.
Mm-hmm.
And we get glimpses of exactly who we thought he was when he was drafted.
Yeah.
And again, we're not far from removed from where he was drafted. He's not been written off. But 6 games is really hard to analyze anything.
True.
So I think in 2023, we're talking about a team that's going to win the NFC North. They're going to have arguably the best receiving core in the North.
Yeah.
And the best receiver on their team is probably going to be J-Mo.
How high over 1,000 are you thinking? You didn't say 11, you didn't say 12, so.
No, I mean, if he eclipses 1,000, then I'm right.
Yeah, that's a W. Yeah.
1,001 yards.
So even with, okay, all right, fine.
That's good. If he hits 1,000 on the number, it doesn't
cool
matter.
Okay. All right, man.
998 I'm cool with, right? Like, if it's 995 or above, we round up. It's 1,000 yards, right? So, but a breakout's coming. You can kind of feel it, and they don't have to protect him with the injury anymore. So let him cook.
Yep.
Give him the gas. Let him cook.
You were talking about in that Defend the Den video, Brad Holmes was talking very highly of him. He said he is somebody that we think could be a number 1. That was his direct quote. And even with the talented receivers they had, it wasn't like he was just trading up to get the next best receiver. He wanted him specifically. So it is a lot of pressure on him, but I think he can live up to it.
And it's because of the attributes. In that video, they also said speed like this does not come around that often, and when you have the chance to get it, you get it.
Yes.
And speed doesn't mean that you catch footballs. I'm honest about that,
Right.
but when they said that, I was like, yeah, I mean, you're right. I apologize for not grading you higher last year in the draft. So just a few quick things, right? We think that J-Mo is going to be a potential to be a star, but do we know who J-Mo is? So I found some interesting facts, and I want you to rate them on a scale of, I'm going to give you 3 of them. I want you to rate them on a scale from 1 to 5.
Okay, let's do it.
5 being the most interesting, 1 being like, nah, I don't care. Okay?
All right.
Did you know that Jameson Williams did not start his collegiate career at Alabama?
I did know that. Yeah. Ohio State, right?
He was Ohio State and was behind the 2 wide receivers that were drafted in front of him.
Ooh.
Interesting or not interesting?
Very interesting. I will give that I'll give it a 4.5. Yeah, I knew he was at Ohio State. I forgot there was 2 other guys ahead of him, but again, he was still able to have that much promise in getting traded up for that high. So yeah, I think that speaks a lot. I'll give it a 4.5, my impressive rating.
Number 2.
What's yours? You're not gonna give a score?
I found him, so I like.
Okay, all right, okay, fine.
You know what I mean?
Cool, no problem.
He received his first collegiate scholarship as a sophomore in high school from Syracuse.
Oh, man, that's a 5-2. That's big. Okay. Even if it's Syracuse, like that's a pretty big honor to be getting that college sophomore year. That's a big deal. I give him a 5.
And tying it back to our Detroit Lions for our third and final JMO facts.
Okay.
He's the first wide receiver taken in the first round by the Detroit Lions since 2007 when they drafted Calvin Johnson Jr.
Oh, man. Why would you do that? Why are you doing that? That's nasty. Don't do that. I'm going to downplay that. J-Mo, let me protect you right here. I'm going to give that a 2. That don't mean nothing.
But is it interesting? I didn't ask if it meant something. I asked if it was interesting.
Yeah, it is actually. It absolutely is. Knowing what this franchise and their intrigue has been with receivers, and they haven't had a whole lot. Golden Tate, Marvin Jones. They've had some good players, but no first round picks since then. That is surprising.
But both of those guys were not drafted.
Right. So that's still surprising to me because I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's very, very interesting.
So 5 for
That's a 5.
that was batted a perfect 1,000 on
yeah,
those.
That was
were all
good.
Interesting.
You did good. I'll raise that back out to a 5.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good.
I appreciate that.
To know
so
you.
Here's what we're looking at with JMO, right? He is a rising star in the NFL. We absolutely believe that he can get there.
Yes.
He possesses a lot of good strengths that are really unteachable strengths, like yards after catch and sprint speed and things of that nature. But he does need to clean up the maturity just a little bit. He thinks that he'll kind of make his way towards a breakout season, and I am there saying that he will break out in 2023. But we want to hear what you think too. So make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you've liked this video. Make sure you've shared this video and drop comments down below letting us know what you think about Jameson Williams.
Yes.